You're listening to Lemon's Listening Library. Discover the story behind the stories with unique and raw conversations from the people who make your favorite books a reality. All right, welcome to this episode of Lemon's Listening Library. I'm your host, Randy Lemons, fantasy author, or R.L. Rose to those of you in the romance community. And we've been waiting for this episode for a hot minute, so you guys better buckle up because it's going to be awesome. But before we do anything else, I want to make sure we jump. Oh my gosh, I just skipped over you, Kathy. I wasn't even going to do the...
Totally fine.
All right, go for it, Kathy. We've got our Kathy girl here, and then we'll talk about the housekeeping stuff in a second.
All good. Hey, y'all, I'm Kathy Ireland. I do audiobook production management, starting a new company called Phoenix Audio Productions. So that's exciting. That's happening. You're the first people to hear that actually right now because I'm just going to get it registered tonight. So that's exciting. But I've been doing audiobook management, production management. So, and you'll be hearing more about that coming in the next probably couple weeks,
And she's also got something super exciting to tell you guys in the future. So if you guys continue to tune in, you guys will hear some good stuff.
Yep. So anyway, that's more about me.
All right. Before we introduce our guest today, we always do the suspense of the housekeeping. So, as everyone knows, we had a really big 24-hour event thing happen this past weekend, and I just want to give a huge shout out to all the authors who submitted their snippets to be on the event, and the biggest shout out to all of the narrators who donated their time and their voices. And yeah, they're awesome.
The crowd goes wild.
To this event to bring to life these indie authors' snippets and pieces of their books. We had people crying. We had people who could not stop smiling. We have had messages all week long from authors just thanking the narrators for giving them a glimpse into their world from a different perspective. And it was so awesome to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you guys to everyone who participated in the L3 Human Voices Only event, and those of you who joined in and watched just from bystander? No, what's the word?
Viewer. They were being voyeurs.
Viewer?
They were being voyeurs. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening.
Own it, voyeurs.
Yes. Beyond that, if you guys are interested in having your services advertised on the podcast, make sure you head over to our Patreon, reach out to us, let us know you're interested. We will get you guys hooked up. So, the moment you guys have been waiting for. The one and only, the amazing Hell. Hell, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm gonna just peek in here just so it's real. Hi, I'm a real person. This is a video. Hi, I'm Hal, your sugar, spice, and everything nerdy narrator. I started this journey. I've always been an avid performer, storyteller. It's like ever since I was little, I was a singer, did dance, ballet, jazz dance. And then when I became an adult, I didn't have those opportunities to sing and dance as much anymore. So I became a facilitator, a moderator, a coach within my corporate company, and then now narration. And I'm so happy to be here. Storytelling has been an integral part of my story or of my life. And I think it's such a powerful medium, especially with the work that I do, to really be able to connect people together. And that's probably two things that you'll take away from this about me is I care about growth and I care about connection and education.
Love it.
But you didn't always, right? There was once a little girl who had this idea of just living life, not really caring about the introspection stuff. And then something happened along the way to where it was like, hey, there's actually, if you put your effort into something, there's a result. And so I have to be conscious with my effort. Did that happen for you?
Oh my gosh, yes. I feel like oh god. So that was actually part of my
Can of
coaching
worms. Sorry,
services.
guys.
No, I love it. That was part of my coaching services when this is some time ago. But exactly to your point, I think a lot of us, when we were little, we had a dream. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a singer or an actress. You know, who doesn't? I want to be rich. All of those things, of course. There comes a time where all your life you're just kind of told, like, hey, this is what you should be doing. Go to school, major in some this, let's say, I was told, like, you should be a doctor, or you should be a whatever lawyer, or whatever other one of those quote unquote successful roles are. And at some point, you, let's say, kind of got there, you graduate college, you're still told, okay, find a job, do this and that job, you should be looking for this role, and then you're like, okay, I'm here, and then the instructions stop coming. And so when I was a coach, one of the things I was specifically helping people out on was something I called quarter life crisis, because I went through it too. Like, once you stop being told where to go next, you're like, okay, well, I got here, now what? I don't actually like it here.
I
But
was actually
where
just
do I
doing
go
what
now?
you told me.
Exactly. Like, I don't actually like it here, but where do I go now? And so I was helping, and a lot of that, what I've discovered through my own journey um, and through the coaching service I was doing for other people, was that it all came down to values in my mind. Whatever it is that you were doing or that you were told to do to get to where you are today, as whether it is perceived as successful or not, it did not actually align with your values and what you care about as a person. And so, fine, we're here now. We have to take it as is. But how do we take that one step forward there, closer to where you want to be? And I think what the slump that we get in, oh yeah, you guys really did open a can of worms. The slump
Yep,
that
I
we get
love it.
in
Let's go.
is that we want to know, okay, if this isn't it, there must be a perfect role out there somewhere that is going to be just the thing for me, and this is how to get there. We start trying to outline a plan of all the steps to get there. But really, the most important step is just to take a step. But we just get so stuck. Anyways, all to say, yes, I did go through that journey. And I think a big part of it, as we'll talk about more, is I started going through that journey a little bit, but also a switch went off in my brain when I became a mother and
Yep.
went through that entire journey. And really, at that point, that
Still
switch flipped in
going
my
through that
mind.
journey.
Still going through
That
that
is a
journey. You're
daily
right.
journey.
Right.
That is a daily journey.
And it don't
I'm
end
trying.
when they get up and out of the house.
With
You're right.
That is a
with your awareness of, like, you were led into the path that and many people are, they're led by their
Yeah.
peers, by their parents, by their mentors. As a parent, now that you're coming full circle, is there
Mhm.
something that you consciously do with your children to let them figure out more on their own versus leading them so much so they don't run into that crisis? Or do you think that everyone runs into it no matter how hard we do or don't do?
I think. So my child is about to be turning 3.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
I'm really early in the process.
yeah.
Well, I believe that I will eventually fuck up. If I haven't already. I believe I will. So I'm not going to be able to protect her from all of these assumptions that I was raised with. I'll probably teach her, oh yeah, you should be doing this. You should go to this school. You should take this role. You should take this career path. I probably will do that to some extent because as a parent, I want what's best for her. I will try to be mindful of that. And I think what it comes down to for me is, let's take this time when you're little to really explore, really get to know yourself as an individual. And for me as a parent, to understand who you are as an individual, what you care about, and to try not to just force them down a path that I think they want, but instead let them explore all of the paths in due time. She has plenty of time.
She does.
At this point, especially.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that I can kind of speak from a parent who now has adult children who are thriving and doing their thing and doing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look back and, when they were little, I tried very hard not to be a helicopter parent. That's what we called it back
Mm-hmm.
then. I let them fall. I let them touch the
Mm-hmm.
hot thing once. If I told them
Yeah.
no and they didn't, well, they're going to learn.
Yeah.
But they have to learn, and those experiences are what are going to shape them. Just you telling
Yes.
them and directing every single path without them learning themselves isn't going to help them. That's how they discover who they are and
Yeah.
their grit and their passions. And, you know, and that has to continue through the whole journey of motherhood, because
Yeah.
those choices to allow them to do their thing and be who they are get harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets
I think you
harder.
touched on something. You touched on something, a word there that I really love, which is grit. And I think the one thing, if I could imbue in her and like teach her, is whatever it is that you want to do it. I fully support it, so long as it's not harmful to others. Let's preface
Right.
that.
Right.
We do have
Boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah, we do have
There's healthy
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
There's the alley,
Um,
the bubble,
yeah.
the bowling alley. Like there's the
Yeah.
bumper
Yeah.
thing. We have bumpers.
Right. Yeah.
We have bumpers. But pursue it. Pursue it with all you have and like really go for it. But don't give up just because it gets hard.
Yeah.
I want to teach her grit more than anything else, because like if it really becomes impossible, acknowledge that, learn from it, move on. But just because it gets hard doesn't mean you get to quit.
Right. Or if they realize that it's not for them, right? Like there's also you have to check in with yourself. You have to be like,
Yeah.
was I led here? Is this for me? Or because everyone told me I'm nice and I'm good at talking and now I'm a therapist, was it just because everyone told me I was good at it and this is where I'm at? Or do I
Mm-hmm.
really like this? Am I passionate about this? No? Then you can walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think unfortunately a lot of us discover that a bit too late.
Nah, it's never too late.
Well,
Get
That's
in that
true.
college, grandma.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I think that you
Uh,
learn though, right? And
You
and
do.
I think that those making those decisions and walking your path, and I think that's the important thing to remember, is that my path is not the same as your path, or my path as a young mother was
Mm-hmm.
not the same path as you as a young mother. This is a different generation.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously
Mm-hmm.
we did things differently. Um, wrong. Some people may say they were wrong, but I have to look at the fruit of how I parented. And I mean, my kids work for, the clock app, the, the rocket company, and
Mm-hmm.
the, book Amazon, like, so, I mean,
Zon.
Zon. So
I love how you got the other two names perfectly.
I couldn't come up with anything for that one. But you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, yes, did we struggle with some things? Did we go through some really shitty times? 100%. Did I fuck up? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So many times.
Yeah.
But I think that the grit is from that you one, emulate to them, but
Mm-hmm.
also fortify and revalidate in your own self, is to own up to those mistakes and be like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
fucked up. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I did the best that I could at that time. And
Doesn't mean it was right.
no,
Yeah.
and then some of it
Yep.
wasn't right, like 100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're human, and going
Yeah.
back to what you had said earlier about the quarter, I loved that, and I wanted to touch a little bit more on that. The what did you say? The quarter
Quarter
century,
life
Quarter
crisis.
life
quarter
crisis.
life crisis. So when people like 25, between 25 and 30, that's when the
Yeah.
adulting starts for
Yeah.
many of them, right? That's like the layman's
Yeah.
term, is you have to adult. Guess what? You have to pay your bills. You have to call and make the appointments. I'm not going to do that for you.
That's the
I
hardest.
mean,
That was the kicker in the teeth. I have to call when I'm sick. Are you fucking kidding
I
me?
made my kids do
Mom
that
is
when I
not
were
gonna
like
call.
17. I'm like, I'm not doing this for you anymore. You're an adult. I mean,
Oh
and wash
gosh.
your own damn clothes. Like, I cannot tell you. And it's the simple things like, but that gives them independence. That gives you as a person independence, because if you can't wash your own damn clothes, like, you're going to be dependent on somebody forever. And no, what? No, you don't want that.
Yeah.
At least be rich enough to hire
Oh,
somebody.
exactly.
You gotta
But
get
know
rich
how to
first
do it in
order to
case those riches go down the drain. You got to
That
know
is,
how to do
yeah.
it.
That is a whole
Basic life stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna totally squirrel here, but you hear me out for a second. So with being rich and the connotation that so many of us have when we're not fucking rich, like
Yeah.
none of us are rich.
I wish.
Yeah, me too. I'm reading The Mountain Is You. Thanks, Stephen Walker. And it
We
talks
love
about
him.
how I know it talks about how because we keep hearing passively like rich people are snobby, rich people are this, rich people are that, we in our mind do not want to be those things, so we will self-sabotage becoming rich, and that fucked me up. That's been fucking me up for the past couple days, just
Interesting.
thinking like,
This is the perfect person
man.
to talk about that shit with too, because health, she can get so deep.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
can go
figured.
deep. I can go deep. So I feel like millions of people could relate to this sentiment. It's like, why do I have to work? What? I would be a perfectly functioning human if I didn't have to worry about money. I would still contribute to society. I would still be giving back to the community. I would still be doing everything that I am doing now without the stress of having to just pay bills and have money. And that's like such a fascinating concept. And I think the opposite of that in my coaching time was absolutely true. You see these rich people, like some of these coaches are executive coaches. So they're working with CEOs in the executive suites. And you hear constantly about how unhappy they are. On
Yes. So if
paper,
I'm rich, that means I'm gonna be unhappy. So self-sabotage the fuck out of it.
exactly. But you see on paper, like they seem successful. They have a beautiful wife and family, a beautiful house, a yacht, maybe. I don't know. But like they're still unhappy about something. Something isn't fulfilling. And it's just because they were good at going through the motions. But again, for me, it all kind of ties back to values. They weren't feeding themselves in the way that they needed to feed themselves. Yes, you were making money, but let's say you care about your family and your job takes you for 18 hours of your day. That's significantly less time if you care about your family, that's significantly less time that you get to spend time with them. And so you're not feeding yourself in the way that actually matters to you. You're feeding yourself in the way that society has told you that you should be feeding yourself.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Damn,
there's
that's
like a
good.
balance. There's got to be a balance in that, right? Because I do feel like that if you don't work for something, you don't really appreciate it as
You know what
as
sucks is
much.
I think there is a balance, and I think there is a small percentage of people who achieve the money and the happiness. We just don't see them as much. They're not as many. And also, society focuses on the drama. So these people aren't out there being showcased to the world. They're not people that, a lot of people know and get involved in their lives, and their circle's probably small. So it's not like we get the opportunity to be like, I also have a best friend who has achieved this and I see that she's achieved this. None of us really get to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think they're quiet and they're quiet because they're happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unhappy people
They're
that are
out there.
loud.
Where are you? We need to talk to you, please.
Tell us your secret. Yeah.
Damn, that's good. And then they will, and we won't believe them.
You're
That's true.
Shit.
But that's
Okay,
actually part of my I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I want to go back to after you can say what you're gonna say, but I want to go back to like what got you into dance and all that too. And once you finish what you're gonna say.
Oh, okay. And maybe it's actually tie it back a bit, but but more modern times because so I was thinking what kind of got me into TikTok and doing because I started my journey into spicy audios. It's a bit loaded in that side, but part of it was me knowing about TikTok, learning about y'all know that like those NPC lives were like
Oh
huge,
yeah.
right? Right? People would like gift them things. They take the gifts as commands. They have a little prompt that they do a little something of. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking back about it and being like, oh, that's so cringe. And then
But then you can't swipe away from it for at least 5 minutes.
that, and I took a step back. There's this Daniel Kahneman, I'm butchering his name. Thinking Fast and Slow. One of the things that's
Oh my
stood
God,
out
I
for
love that book.
such a
Fuck,
good
that's
book,
a good
right?
book.
So
Yes.
System 1, System 2 thinking. System 1 thinking is me judging, that's cringe. System 2
Yep.
thinking is me taking a step back and realizing,
That
wait, she's
system
getting a shit
works.
ton of gifts. Like and then you look at these articles and like they're potentially making like thousands in a day,
Yeah.
in a week. I make nothing close to that. So why am I judging this person for being able to game the system so well to their benefit? No
The
doubt it's probably a lot of
judgment
work.
is the key. The judgment is the key to what you want. And you want that like if you could have that money and but not have to do like what that's the piece of like we judge people for something they have that we want.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's also like a level of your own boundaries because I'm not willing to be an NPC person
Well,
because
is it your boundaries or is it you're worried about the judgment of the people? Like I feel like you're pretty loosey goosey. Like you could have a crazy moment. Like let's do some NPC stuff. Hell, you would do it for fun and
I
you
would
because we wouldn't judge you. But
I
all
would to
those
an extent. So something that it is partially for me, partially my boundaries. I do have personal socials where like only my friends and families know about it. My face is not on anywhere.
yeah.
My face is never shown on any socials. I have like a little baking account and I maybe show my hands because I have to knead the dough, but like that's a personal boundary. Like I'm shy. I don't like showing my face anywhere. So I can't do the NPC because my face would be there.
Yeah, that's fair. You could do one of those fish ones that's like got the fish over your face. I'm just kidding. But I get what you're saying and that is first off, fucking kudos to you for figuring out your boundaries and the awareness of like, no, actually, I hear what you're saying and I can agree to disagree with you. That's just not something I would be willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's boundaries are different. But that's
Yeah.
how I started out. It's like to your point, exactly to your point, the judgment that was there. And and it kind of this judgment, the whole kind of concept of judgment takes me back to kind of how I got into this journey as to I used to judge reading romance books. People who read romance books because growing up all my life, it was a cringe thing. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see it, but I'm doing air quotes. It was a cringe thing to do because you see like those like Fabio men in the covers, and like
Oh
you don't want to
yeah.
be caught with one of those books and whatever.
Yeah, the people hiding them behind their Bibles
Harlequin
and reading them that
romances
way.
and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But it was really again this journey through motherhood and oh my gosh. Now, maybe I should pause here and answer your previous question about
Listen,
before.
there's an outline. We know there's an outline, but no one else gives a shit about the outline. Like that is
And
just there
ultimately,
as
we
a
don't give a shit about the
suggestion.
outline either.
But so maybe I'll go into yeah, going back into like my journey through motherhood and going through pregnancy, going through a delivery, going through postpartum. Unfortunately for me, it was all traumatic. I hated
Oh,
every
damn.
moment of it. I I don't want to do it again. Period.
Yeah.
All to say, I think that moment of time after, yes, I went through postpartum depression. It was a really rough time. After I got through the despair, I became angry. Um, and for me, that's a good thing. Anger is a better emotion to have than despair because when you're feeling despair, you just don't have the will to do anything. You don't want to move on. You're just kind of wallowing in. I just didn't have any will to do anything. But anger,
Anger is a motivator.
exactly. Anger gave me the energy to do something because I was
Yeah.
like, fuck this shit. This is fucked up. I shouldn't have had to go through everything that I went through. I should have known the information for pregnancy, delivery, postpartum should have been so much more readily available. Instead, I had a ton of women saying, it's all natural, it's great, just have a C-section, it's easy. Literally heard that. And it made me angry. And not only did it make me angry from my community that I felt like didn't help
They
me
kind of let you
enough
fall
for
on
it.
your ass.
Yeah, but also society. I
Yeah.
was really angry with society because how dare you continue to spread these lies about how easy everything is and put all of the pressure and weight on women who are already struggling and just trying to stay afloat throughout all this time. And like the whole concept of bouncing back, I was susceptible to it myself. Like I forced myself to go back. I had to go back to work after my leave was over. And then it wasn't until I spoke to, because I work in a global company, my colleagues in Europe, where they said, well, yeah, we get 1 to 3 years off. And I'm like,
That's so
what
crazy.
the fuck? And I became angry. I became
Yeah.
so angry at everything. And
I think it's.
that led me into,
I
oh,
just
go
want to say
ahead.
real quick, because I think because they value that bond between the mother and the child and the family, and they really esteem
Yeah.
that, right? Whereas in
Yeah.
America, we have valued the dollar instead of people.
Mhm.
The American dream.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry. Continue.
I mean, I completely agree. I completely agree. And this anger then kind of transformed to, it essentially came down to like, why are we being treated this way? Why did I have to suffer? Why did me and millions of other women have to suffer the way that we did? Um, and there's no real good reason because, as you said, it's designed this way.
Yeah.
And
And that sucks because that's something where you can have the awareness of like, I would not like to live in this society, but what options do you have? It's not
yeah,
like a half,
yeah,
even a small percentage can just pick up and then transfer to a place that
yeah.
does care about their women like that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not accessible to just like very few. You gotta be rich to be able to just get up and leave. And most of us don't have that kind of money. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a part of it kind of boiled down to like how women are treated in general in society. And there's a core kernel of it that was just that sexuality is used against women throughout our lives.
Yeah.
You're a slut or you're a prude.
Yeah.
You can do nothing right and everything will be your fault. If there's a sex tape leaked, the women takes the fall, not the men or the people who leaked it. Sexuality is consistently being used against women, and I decided, fuck that shit. I'm done feeling ashamed of the things that I choose to find joy in. I am not harming anybody. I'm just gonna fucking do it. And it just started with me just reading romance books. That's how it started.
I think
That's
too,
fuck. I
how
love
I want
that.
to just kind of elaborate on that, because I think that it goes not only just with, pushing women to go back to work, but if women choose to stay home and both options are 100% viable and fabulous and whatever is best for you and your family, you should do. But
Yeah.
I stayed home with my kids for 12 years, and it
Mm-hmm.
was so hard. For one, people assumed that I did nothing, that I sat around and ate
Yeah.
bonbons and watched Oprah Winfrey, when I don't think I'd even seen one episode of Oprah
Mm-hmm.
until my kids got older. I was so busy, 3 kids.
But even if
Yeah.
you fucking had, the people who are going to work and on their lunch breaks, they're scrolling TikTok. That's about the same fucking time that people can sit down and watch soap operas. So
Yeah.
get off their fucking cases too.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But then when
Yeah.
you do choose to go back to work, or because of need or whatever, it is almost impossible. Um, you are that time
You
period.
have no work
No
history.
work, no work history.
Yeah.
You are deemed so hard. Like it was a
Yeah.
very long time for me to get a job that was paying a reasonable,
Yeah.
like a living wage, and I was supporting 3 kids, so after my
Yeah.
divorce. So it was just, yeah. So I hear what you're saying, and it is pretty sad, like that whole, whether you work or whether you stay home, you're fucked either way, like.
Yeah. And that's how I was raised. Like I was raised to never relinquish full control to my partner because this is how women are treated. So
And that sucks. That sucks so bad because for one, it also creates a wedge in the ability to what your relationship with your partner can be if
yeah,
you were safe and if you felt safe enough to have it be a partnership instead of
yeah,
I can't let you control any aspect of my life because if I do, I've seen what fucking happens.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's, yeah, as much as we try to unlearn things, there are just things that are so deep rooted, it's hard to shake off. And so yeah, I was susceptible to that. I rushed myself back to work. I was excited. Fuck, I did such great work when I got back because I was so driven to prove them wrong that I can be a mother and kick ass at work because I've been told all my life that no, you can't. Because women who are now mothers are just going to prioritize the family and they're no longer going to be a great contributor to the company, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
let's talk
You
about those
fell for their
emotional
fucking
scars,
tactic.
not only emotional scars, but physical scars that also perpetuate emotional scars
Oh my
of
gosh. Yes.
motherhood, and how that is also not celebrated in
Mm-hmm.
society. The weight gain, the stretch marks,
Yeah.
the hips for
The
miles, the
acne, the
the
fucking
acne,
hair on
the
your upper
the
lip.
scars, I
Yeah.
mean, as well as the emotional shit that, yes. And this is by way, I want to say this. We, and I know how, are in no way bashing men in this discussion.
Never
Oh
in this
yeah.
Never in
community.
this
Nope.
podcast will you have us hear us bashing men ever. Like, we don't do that. But we are just talking about the
There
struggles
is
that we
an
have.
ability yes, there is an ability to talk about women's struggles and there's an ability to talk about men's struggles separately. We don't
Exactly.
have to say, here's the women's
Exactly.
struggles. But what about the men?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the women's struggles
Yes,
right now.
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I think I mentioned this in the little form I filled out, but yeah, that was absolutely something I struggled with. Um, the weight gain, the stretch marks. I had a C-section, and there's so many posts on social media that I admire of those women who, they make these inspirational posts saying like, "Hey, mamas, look in the mirror when you see that scar. Those are battle scars. You survived. You beat it. Like you got through it." And it was such a long time. It took me over a year before I could ever feel something remotely to that. Every single time I looked at the mirror, I felt absolutely disgusted with myself. And one of the I'm getting a bit emotional, so I'm gonna
Get
jump
it,
to a
girl.
kind of
We're
lighthearted
here.
story.
It's
You
fine.
are good. Or
I know.
you can just sit in those emotions because we're here with you and you do not have to push those emotions away because that shit sucks.
Yeah,
Not
it did.
feeling beautiful, that is the stigma of being a woman. That is
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
tells us women are beauty. Beauty is women. And when
yeah.
we don't feel that, we don't feel like a woman.
And I understand
Because
that.
that's
I'm
And that
experiencing that with you,
fucking
Hal.
sucks.
Like, that even
yeah,
still perpetuates even to the older years. Like, I
yeah.
still struggle with that sometimes. 100%.
Yeah.
And I've learned to kind of own up to it now because weight loss, let's say, right? Because I really forced myself to lose weight as soon as possible because I wanted to feel good about my body again because you know, it's pretty to look skinny and stuff like that. And I remember my brother complimenting me. It was like, "Hey, you look great." Like, this is after I've lost literally 20 pounds and after giving birth. And at that point, I was a better place. And I kind of wanted to call him out on it. So I said, "Thanks. I suffered through a lot of personal anxiety and body dysmorphia to get here." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh." And like, yeah.
Well, and then that just like him doing that, like then you have the anger of like, yeah, it was really fucking hard. It wasn't just a hey, you look good, but then he's like, oh shit, I just walked into an emotional like
And
sinking
Landmine.
pit.
that's and that's what I love about my brother. Like we're so close and like he could take that. He could
Yeah.
take it and be like, "All right, I get where I fucked up there." Like he gets it. He's not going to be awkward about it. but it was a great, and I share everything with my brother. So he understood that I was coming not from a place of like anger, like how dare you say that? Because I knew he meant well. That's just how society tells him to compliment
But
women
your anger
sometimes.
wasn't at him. It
It
was
wasn't
at
at him.
yeah, and that's what sucks too is like sometimes we're just pissed and you
Yeah.
don't have to fix it and you are not the reason.
Yeah, exactly. And so he took it with stride and was like, got it. I'm sorry. And he said, like, I'm sorry you went through all that. And that's perfectly valid. And it was nice. But it was, yeah, I mean, it's so part of my struggle with my body and how my image of my body, again, when I got in a slightly better place, saw a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
When I got in a better place, I decided I needed to reclaim something of myself. I wanted to feel good about myself again.
I have a question before we move into that.
Sure.
So with your dance and stuff like that, that's a very active thing. Were you like you were a performer with that where you're like moving your body a lot? So were you in like really good shape when you were younger? I'm assuming it's okay to kick me in my nuts.
I was a dancer when I was really young. I tried to keep it up. I'm fairly healthy as a person, and I stay fairly active throughout my life. Sure, I have moments of sedentariness, if that's a word, but
We
I'm
create new
generally
things all the time.
Yeah,
New
yeah.
words, new
yeah.
tropes. We
Sounds
we
like one to
create shit
me.
here, so we're good.
But I'm generally fairly active. So going into it, yeah, I was in a good place. And that was part of the things I had to mourn after giving birth was that like I will never get there again. Like never. I literally have like I went through major surgery. My abs don't work
Yeah.
the way they used to. I will never get there again. My boobs aren't gonna look the same. Like that in itself.
Yeah.
But that's beside like it just like that I had to mourn that I was at a great place or I was active and like I was pretty happy with my body image before pregnancy. Throughout pregnancy, I had no issues because like yeah, I should be getting big. That is what my body is meant to do. No issues. It was only after postpartum where my body is healing and I can't do anything about it. That's kind of like the lack of control. I think one of the things that broke me was I couldn't sit up. I couldn't go from a laying position to sitting up. And granted, logically, I should have given myself the grace of, hey, you just went through major surgery. Of course you can't get up. Like, your body hasn't stitched itself back together yet. I should have given myself that grace, but I didn't. And I remembered, like, just laying on the floor in pain and bawling because I couldn't sit up. And that's like, it's such a weird thing, just like to lose that ability for some time
Yeah.
and being helpless about it.
Mhm. How do you feel like, because if I'm hearing you correctly, but I also understand from just a woman's point of view, did you feel like you kind of lost your sense of femininity, grounding, your feminine grounding? Um,
Oh
and,
gosh.
and have you gotten that back? And how did you know what, you know what I'm getting at? How did you get back to that? Because
Yeah.
I think that's very important for moms, especially because we're kind of
Yeah.
talking about motherhood and going through motherhood and stuff, to find that feminine grounding and that joy of where you're at.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it feminine grounding, but I honestly kind of got it back through voice acting.
That's what I was thinking.
So let me just be clear because, like, Zach's my partner.
Mhm.
He was phenomenal throughout my entire journey. He was like, he would compare me to what's her face on The Incredibles, the mom in The Incredibles. And he's like,
Elasta woman, yeah.
yeah. And he's like, hell, that's hot. And I'm like, I don't feel hot.
He's the
Oh, so
sweetest.
you
I
got an
love him
ass.
to death.
Everyone just realized you have an ass.
Oh no
Like
no no
they
no!
did.
It's all gone. Let's be clear here. It's all gone now. I had an ass.
Aw, I just want to hug
but
him
but
again. He's like the sweetest.
he's the sweetest, but he, he loved me. I didn't have an asshole of a partner. Like, he loved me throughout whatever I looked like. He never stopped loving how I looked. Any moment, whenever I feel down, he would try to remind me, and would I believe him? Absolutely not. But he would try to remind me that that he,
Okay,
he
so
found me
I have a
beautiful and
question for you on
etc.
that.
Yeah.
If your husband tells you you look sexy, we're like, you have to say that. But if like me or Kathy was like, damn, girl, you look good today, you'd be like, yeah, girl. What is it
I'm
with
like,
us
thank
being
you.
like, okay, the women win the vote, but the man is the one who's actually like, they get a reward for telling us we're sexy if we believe it.
It's like, in my head, I do actually have a ranking.
Oh,
Priority.
this is good.
The
Yes, I love
person who I
this.
believe the most of, if they were to tell me I'm sexy, is myself. That is number one.
Yes, fuck yeah, I love that.
Number two are women. Number three is Zach. Sorry, Zach. I believe that he believes it. I believe that he believes it. I believe that other women see me as beautiful or cute or whatever, or gorgeous, whatever compliments. But there's also that aspect of like, but at the same time, there are plenty of us who throw that out, and we're not necessarily talking about them physically, but we're talking about like, you are such a gorgeous person inside and out, and therefore you are gorgeous, period. And but like, kind of throw it away. So me in my mind, and it's probably the worst person to put in number one place, because I have an image of what I think beauty is for me. I don't hold it against other people, but I do hold it against myself. And because I am not there yet, I do not feel good about myself. And that's what Zach was contending against,
Damn.
But do
unfortunately.
you think
And
that your view,
that's a hard
it is a
race.
hard race,
Yeah.
but do you think that maybe your own perception of beauty might be warped?
Oh,
So you're
absolutely. Oh my
fighting an
God.
impossible fight against yourself.
Exactly. And that's absolutely something I had to come to terms with too, is kind of almost redefining what beauty looked like for myself. Because before, when I was younger, like high school, I was like, oh, I want a thigh gap. I want to be one of the super skinny people that could wear anything and be a model and whatever. I just wanted to be super skinny. And then in my 20s, I wanted to be a muscle mommy. So very different, but like muscle mommy, but like Scarlett Johansson level, where it's still very much very skinny, but there's some meat
But
on
she could
her.
knock her ass out if she threw some weight into it.
Exactly. Let's specifically, Black Widow.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but to your point, exactly, going through this journey, I had to again redefine what that means to me, because there are some things that are just not possible, like with my body anymore. And
Right.
I can find so many women beautiful, and no matter whatever size clothes they wear, I can find so many beautiful women beautiful. And it's about like reflecting, okay, if I can do that, I can do that for myself. So what does that actually mean for me now?
And you know what's crazy? We could probably go and find someone who could be like your identical fucking twin, and we could show them to you, and you would probably be like, that is the most beautiful woman in the world. And we all see that she looks very similar to you, but because you don't see that, but also you're willing
Yeah.
to give her the grace of like, you're beautiful.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
What the fuck is that about? Why
Why
are
yeah,
we
why
like
are we like
this?
this? Why were we like
Why were
this?
we
Why are
like
we so
this?
difficult?
And it's fluid.
But
That is also, that perception
it's
is
very,
fluid because your
yeah.
body changes through the seasons of your
Yeah.
life, right? So
Oh yeah. My my
Yeah.
my old body is goals for me now. Like,
Yeah.
that's not
why
even a
couldn't I see
goal for
that
me.
then?
Like I can't even, that's not even a realistic goal. I might as well just hang that shit up because at
Yeah.
this point, you know, yeah, like after the surgeries and the um menopause and I mean like years and years and years of going through all of that other, like it's just not even, it's not a realistic expectation or even hope
Mhm.
for me to get my body back to even 5 years ago. I can't,
Mhm.
it's just not going to happen. And so to
Yeah.
adjust my thinking, like women are superheroes because to have to adjust your thinking and your your acceptance of yourself and love for yourself in that moment is really fucking hard. Like it's
Mhm.
it's a daily battle, honestly, to
It
to
is.
get there.
I want to challenge you just a little bit on that, Kathy. I think that us saying we can't do something, like, yeah, you can't reverse surgeries, you can't do, but to get your body back into, into, like, there's so many people who, like, in their 50s are the healthiest they've ever been in their lives, like, even from before, where they're like the healthiest now. So
Yeah.
I think, I fucking hate the word can't, and if you wanted to fucking do it, you could crush that shit and just be like,
Well,
yeah,
I think,
I'm
yes, I understand what you're saying, but you also have to understand like where your body is
it's
at.
not going to be the
It's
same.
not going to be the same. I
Yep.
literally physically cannot do some of that stuff that I did before. I mean, I just can't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Physically cannot do it. So to have the expectation of getting back to, and that's the thing, it's a very personal, individual thing because it's
Yeah.
not realistic, and it would just be setting myself up for failure to try to have those expectations of myself. Like
Exactly.
it's just not going to happen, and I'm okay with that. Like, but you have to come to grips with that and be like, okay, live in the moment. So what is the best me now at 54,
Yeah.
Yeah.
after all of the shit, whatever that you put your body through? What does that look like for me now today? And then move towards that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, it's just like, I think where this journey has helped is I decided that there are other ways to feel sexy. And it doesn't have to be
Your
physical.
voice for one of them.
Boys.
Exactly. Well, exactly. That's exactly what I decided. Which is like I want to feel sexy again. I can't at this point feel sexy about how I physically look. Not right now. But there are other things I can do. So I started the account to try to feel sexy about myself again. To just do sexy things, doing sexy things makes me feel sexy. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's just
That,
generally
right.
universally true.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't
Picking
get
heavy
any
weights up
followers.
makes me feel strong. That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I like it. This account could have gone nowhere. I could have been shit at it, but I didn't care. Like it was an outlet. It was an outlet for me to do something sexy and feel sexy as I do it. And if I get people to say, "Hey, that was sexy," I was like, oh, "Okay, cool. That's kind of validating."
Yeah. Confirmation
It,
bias.
exactly. but at the very least, it was an outlet. It was a way for me to your point, going back to what you're saying, Kathy, like reclaim a bit of myself, just scavenge whatever I can, claw it back into my control, and also going back into performing arts.
Yeah.
Because when I had a child, I stopped everything. Everything was dedicated to that child. I didn't do anything for myself. And this was my way of giving back to myself.
Damn.
I
And
love
you're
that
so worth it.
message too, that that you still exist, right? Even
Yeah.
after you have a child. Yes, they are your priority. Yes, they cannot survive without you, but you as Hell, as Randy and as Kathy, as mom, or as the woman before the mom, still exists and still needs to be nurtured.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
100%.
didn't do that when I was young, so I'm so glad that you figured that out. Honestly, truly.
Well, this is part of the switch that went off in my head, which is like I decided that going through everything I went through was enough trauma for a lifetime. I gave everything I had to have this child. So fuck it, I'm done.
I love it.
I'm done. I've given a lot. I will continue to give to her because I love her to bits. I will give everything to my family. But from everybody else, I'm done. You're going to get what you're going to
Yeah.
get. And this is what I'm doing for me. You can be along for the ride or not. That's fine.
Yeah. So I have something that I would like to share. And because I know that you guys aren't going to judge me for it, and I don't give a fuck what anyone else does, I have a priority list, and I am top of the priority. My husband is next, and then my children. And I know a lot of women are going to be like, I
I love that.
Because you know what? I have so much, my cup is so full that, and then when me and my husband's cups are full, we pour good shit
Yeah.
into our kids' cups. We are overflowing with good shit. And because we have it set up like that, that means that it sounds like we're neglecting our children. My kids are probably the most happiest fucking kids. Like, we understand their mental health on a level that
Mhm.
I bet most people wouldn't be. We would be able to answer questions about our kids that most people would be like, I don't know what my kid would say with that. We know our kids very intimately. And it's
Mhm.
because I fill my cup first. I put my oxygen mask on first. My relationship with my husband comes second, because when they're out of the house and gone, he's all I have.
Mhm.
And then our kids get all of the overflow of just everything that we've built from that.
Mhm. I love
I
that.
love it
I
too.
love that you like have that priority list so clear in your head.
I'm so proud of you for establishing that and being like, fuck anybody else that has any other whatever, because maybe people should take a, like a look in the mirror and have a look at their family if they're not doing that.
Mhm.
And you know what? If someone came to me and said, mine looks like kids, husband, me, I would, that's amazing. I love that you are that clear for yourself. That's all
Yes.
that I care about. I want you to
Yeah.
get clear on what's important to you.
Yep.
But for
And what
me,
works for
that
you.
is what works. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Hang up the judgment.
Yeah.
Figure out what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. But you have, and that's what's so hard with like your situation is your judgment is internal. You're judging the shit out of yourself and
Oh
then finding
yeah.
where the layers are that people have put stuff on you. That's so fucking hard.
But it's
Because
something
kids,
we all go through, right?
yeah, well, yeah, and kids don't think negative about themselves. Like, kids are superheroes. They can do anything. But then
Yeah.
as we go through life, people start saying shit and it starts
Yeah.
sticking and we start believing it. And
Yeah.
then how do we find what we believe and what's actually put on us from other people?
Absolutely.
Trauma.
One of my favorite things that
You go through
my
trauma.
baby that's one of my favorite things that my baby does. I like shared the story on Threads some time ago, is that like, because I'm obsessed with this child. She is she's the best.
She's so cute.
She's I love her. But I shower her with love all the time, and I'm just like, I love you, and she's like, yeah. I was like, I love you very much. She's like, yeah. Mama loves you. Yeah. Dad loves you. Yeah. And like grandma and grandpa loves you. Yeah. And she's just like, it's just so matter of fact for her. And I love it so much. I love that she's like,
It's not a question in her
it's not a,
mind at
yeah.
all.
And on top of that, she doesn't have that societal pressure to reciprocate that yet.
Right. She's like, I'm going to be
I
an asshole all day, every day, and you guys are still going to love me.
But it's just like, she's like, yeah, these things are true. Like, it's just to her,
That's
like,
so
these things
cool.
are true. And I love that so
Oh, that's what you mean
much.
about reciprocation? She's not like, I love you too. She's just like, I know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Because I'll probably keep doing that. I don't care what people say. I know I'm spoiling my child, but I'm also teaching her
I
boundaries. I'm
hate
also
that
teaching
word.
her accountability. But like, I tell her, you are smart. She's like, yeah. Like, you are fantastic. She's like, yeah. You are strong. You are brilliant. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, I will tell her that day in, day out. I don't care.
That's
Because
not
at the
No.
same
spoiling
time,
your
it's all balance,
child.
right?
No.
But like, it's all balance, to your point, right?
Yeah.
It's all balance.
Yeah.
I say all these things because I want her to feel that way about herself. And if she misbehaves and does something wrong, I will hold her accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both sides can be true.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Yep. You can create this. Children thrive off boundaries. Like,
Yes.
they're like, they're going to test the limits. They want to see how far they can go. But when there's a boundary, they're like, oh, okay, now I'm safe within this boundary. And this, like, they
Mhm.
do that on purpose. That's how they're wired to operate. But I
Mhm.
have a question with the affirmations you gave your daughter. How many times do you do that for yourself?
I used to do that for myself. I've if you ask some of my narrator friends, I feel like they will more or less tell you that I'm probably too confident in myself.
Yeah, I love it.
I used to do that for myself because to your point, the whole "Are you smiling because you're happy, or are you happy because you're smiling?" kind of mentality. There's a grain of
Yeah.
truth
Force it,
in
fake
that
it till you make it, or some bullshit.
to some extent. Yeah, there's absolutely a grain of truth in that. And
Yeah.
so when I was feeling really down, when I was feeling really shitty about myself, my image, how I'm doing, I would say like actually now I hear it playing in my head now, because like there are times where maybe it's imposter syndrome or whatever it is, but like my head will be like, ah, you're so worthless today. And then there'll be another voice in my head that's like, shut the fuck up and sit down. Like
I
immediately, like
love
this
that
literally happens.
person.
But it's just like I'm like, and then, and then there's like a third person that's just like, oh, I
Whoa,
was
whoa,
really
whoa, whoa,
mean to
guys.
myself, but like in a good way. I was
Lovingly,
both
you
mean.
deserve that.
Yeah. But I'd like to think that I have grown, I've trained myself, and it has been, honestly, it is something that you do train myself to acknowledge, to be aware of when the negative talk is happening and how to tackle it, how to address it. And a lot of it, I took, again, it was part of my coaching training. I took something called positive intelligence, and a lot of it is very similarly wired to meditation, where you have these thoughts, these negative thoughts come up, these judgmental thoughts come up, and you acknowledge it. You don't try to squash it, you acknowledge it. But then that's your system one thinking. You get in that system two when you actually analyze, am I actually this way? So let's say,
Yeah. Challenge it.
yeah, let's say I feel, oh gosh, hell, that was such a bad read. Like, you fucked up so many words. Why are you even doing this? Right? And then it's like, okay, I can acknowledge it. Yes, I missed some words. I misspoke. Not, and that really sucked. I made me fumble. It's not a perfect performance. Does that mean I'm a bad narrator, though? Does that mean I'm complete shit? I was like, no,
Yeah.
because I have these and these and these people interested in working with me. The people, I have to take people at face value, and if I have the audience and the host saying great job, I have to take that at face value and use it, whether they're lying or not. But it doesn't, like, I may have messed up, but it doesn't mean I'm worthless.
Yeah.
Both can be. It's all of that kind of meditation process, I guess.
Yeah. And that feeds into like our actual brain wiring too, because as soon as we have the negative thoughts, instead of, like you said, going down into the shit talking of yourself, you can just go into the logic side of it. Like you said, the first system, logically, yes, these things were actual factual happening. And then you go into like the emotional side of it, was the I'm shit and all that. Challenge that. Were you?
Yeah.
No. And also, these everyone acts off of selfish intent. These people aren't going to tell you they're good, take on their work, their life's work, their hard stuff, and let you read
Yeah.
it if they don't believe that.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're benefiting them. They wouldn't be doing it if you weren't.
But exactly, right? It's like actions speak louder than words, and you can say a lot of things about yourself, but when you actually look for evidence, you'll find that the shit talk that you tell yourself, the evidence for it is hopefully and usually sparse.
Yeah. Well, there's the what is that? You buy a new car and you see it everywhere. If you look for it, you're gonna find it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that do you think that, because I feel like the narration has really, really helped with this training of your mind,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
do you think that you choose roles or tropes um to further that training, or is that a conscious decision, or is that an unconscious decision, do you think? um
Hmm. I'm greedy. I want it all. So I don't know if I really make it as like, hey, you want to work with me? With me? Okay, great. Thanks. Let's talk. Let's see what it's about. I think I'll take it to my first book. I'll talk about my first book because that was, essentially as a narrator, you technically have a choice. You don't have to work with every single book that you're given, and sometimes you can't. for one reason or another. But my first book, I think it just got really lucky. It's Corrupted Tides by S.M. Campbell. And this book fed me in ways that I didn't expect it to. And I love femme rage. I love books, stories that have femme rage, because it is ever present in my heart. It is just always there. I am like the Hulk. I'm just always angry. And so it just that book really fed me in that way, because there's a lot of femme rage. There's a lot of like this. It's a very morally gray FMC, and I love that I like. No, we are not all women have to be dainty and cute and like the damsel, but of course not all stories are like that, especially when written by women, um, or even men. But that story, that being my first book, really fed me, and it did. I do. I do like. I do tend to lean towards stories where the femme character or the FMC is angry in some way or strong or it's morally gray, because I think that adds a lot of intrigue to it, and I feel like I can really connect to that a lot too, because yeah. I can be
Yeah.
angry real quick,
Right.
or I can display myself being angry real quick, but at the same time I love highlighting that no, we're not going to be perfect. We were told all our lives that we should be perfect, and I am no, I am not going to continue to perpetuate that
Yeah.
message.
What was that Bruce Banner saying? He's like, how do you just go angry, all, as soon as you need it? He's like, the key is I'm angry all the time.
Exactly.
Damn.
Exactly.
Damn.
That's exactly how I feel.
That's
That's
awesome. Yeah.
crazy. And like listening to your voice, you do not sound angry, right?
And
Like
No.
meeting her in
people need to
person, you
understand
do
the
not, she's
complexity.
not an angry person. Like,
Yeah.
she's the sweetest thing ever.
Oh,
So,
okay. Oh, the
But
gosh.
man, you need it, it's there.
Oh, yeah, 100%, right? But this is like, I more and more people, it's been really fascinating. More and more people have told me that I'm intimidating. And I love it. I love it so much because I
I
didn't
think
know.
your confidence can be intimidating. I feel like that is something I could totally see people being like, "Oh man, she's going to tell me how it is because like you're confident in the way you speak, you don't stumble over your words, you're like you hold space." And that's
Mm.
intimidating for people.
Oh, I kind of like that.
hold
I
that space,
like being
girl.
intimidating. Hold that space.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly that, right? I think I luckily had a lot of practice with my facilitation, because when you're a facilitator, when you're a moderator or the host, you take that is your space. You are creating that space for others, and part of that space is yours. You control that space. So I've had a lot of practice in that sense, and that's been great. I love doing those things. And another part of it is, yeah, going back to my journey through motherhood is me deciding I'm I'm going to take up whatever space I'm going to take up. I'm going to choose to take whatever space I want to take. Obviously there's a balance. I don't want to be an asshole and just take up too much space, which exists. I love empowering other people. And there is a space for me to also contribute.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be in the background anymore. And we can get into like trauma response. And my trauma response during postpartum was to be overly accommodating. I apologized about everything. I thought everything was my fault. And so after the fact, I was like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've hit my
I
quota for my
even
lifetime.
No, I am the same way. I even whenever I'm late for something or like I will apologize, but I will word it in a way of like thank you for being patient. I had a
Yeah.
lot of crazy there like I'm so done apologizing for being human. Like I was late. I am not the kind of person who's going to blow you off just to blow you off. I value your time as well, but I don't have to be sorry for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's aspects of that's out of my control, and I don't have to be sorry for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
think that I think that part of the problem is that we have overused the word sorry. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss, or I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I hurt your feelings, or I'm sorry that you're sick. Like those are three completely different things where you could, or if you fuck up, I'm sorry that I felt like sorry. If I'm thinking about this right, should mean sorrow. And you don't have to have sorrow for all of those spaces, right? You can have regret that you didn't even on accident respect someone else's time or space. Well, you can word that differently. I apologize, was not my intention. Or, I'm sorry for your loss. That's probably a pretty appropriate word to say, or, you see what I'm saying? Like, I think that the word has just been overused.
It's overused.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I
And there's
think
such a shame stigma to it too.
there is. And I think a lot of women are trained to just say it a ton because they're made to feel like everything's their fault.
Well, we don't want to take up space. That's something that like women are like, we don't want to be too loud. We don't want to be too, they're not going to love us if we're too loud. That we're too much. We have too much personality. And so we're sorry for that. We're sorry. And then we become smaller and smaller, and it's like, fuck that. I'm going to say it with my whole chest.
Well, and I think we try to, well, at least my personal experience. So I'm not going to say for anybody else. My personal experience was I was trying to diffuse conflict and diffuse someone else's shitty behavior by taking even
Apologizing for their actions.
unassummed blame, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything wrong, but to diffuse that, you know what I'm saying? And I think that happens a lot.
One of my favorite things that I worked on with my coach some years ago was he challenged me to find other ways to say I'm sorry. For all the times that I want to say I'm sorry, how else would you say it? And so poor Zach, I don't say sorry to him as much anymore. But but things like, let's say we get in an argument, and if I really did fuck up and it is totally my bad, I will say I'm sorry. If it's a difference of opinions, I think all it comes down to is like we as people want to be heard. And so I now that I'm putting it out in the world, people are going to start hearing about it or start seeing it in me. But I'll say, like, I acknowledge that you're feeling really upset with me. What I hear you say is that when I said this, it made you feel this way.
Oh, I fucking love that. Damn, that's
and
good.
Like, all we want is validation, right? I am angry. I want to feel validated that you know why I'm angry at you. And I want you to feel some way about it. Like, I don't active listening skills.
Yeah.
Active listening skills is literally take what they said, paraphrase it, give it back to them to show that you're listening, to show that you hear what they're saying without judgment.
Or twisting it into some like like I love the TikToks where it's like he said I don't love you anymore, and he's like, no, I said you can't have 500 cats, and she's like, that's the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm done just saying sorry just to diffuse. Like if we mean something to each other, we will work through it.
Yeah.
We can have a difference of opinions and respect where we're coming from and validate where each of us are coming from without one or both of us fully taking the blame.
God,
Yeah, I love that too.
That is
so much.
such the what is the word? Is it emotional intelligence? I think it's emotional intelligence. The amount of emotional intelligence that you have to have in a relationship where you don't agree, but you love your partner and you understand where they're coming from to the point to where you're like, actually, we don't have to agree. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. That's called being an adult, guys.
You heard it here, folks.
That is called being an adult.
Yeah.
It's part of that
quarter,
mid quarter, whatever. This is part of it right here.
Yeah, but because I still use it to diffuse situations? Sure, like in times of like if I feel like I'm gonna get punched in the face, like dude, sorry, like let's back off now. Doesn't happen to me, by the way. I don't get in very many fights. I don't get in any fights.
I mean, but there was that one time last week with
Look, they were kind of asking for it. You know, they just gave me that
100%.
You're spicy.
earned
That's what I
that
said.
one.
You're the Spitfire. Oh my gosh.
So, okay,
No,
Hel. So I want to ask you a couple of questions here. So are there, because you do read some pretty fucking spicy shits. So amazingly too. Like, and I wasn't just exaggerating. I mean, I seriously meant that,
Thank you.
the growth, even from when I met you in New Orleans, like, has been crazy, impressive.
Thank you.
You're so good, really,
Thank you.
truly. And I would have no problem recommending you to an author as a narrator. So there's that.
Thank you so much.
So do you have, like, is there a trope or is there a line of content or something that you're like, nope, that's not, I can't do that,
Can't
or won't, or don't wanna? It's all the same, all of it.
Yeah, I don't. I stray away from very religious or very political topics or stories. If it's like, and I'm talking about like specifically talking about politics or specifically talking about a specific religion, I stray away from those. And that's because I don't feel comfortable. I don't find joy in it. We all have our journeys with how we feel about politics and how we feel about religion. And I find joy in fiction where it's not closely tied to it. Yeah, that's probably the thing I stray away from. Like, my only hard limit as it comes to like trigger warnings is child neglect, and it has to be like really on page because I can't. It breaks my heart, and I can't be I can't be in that emotional state. But aside from that, I love the challenge of reading different stories. And one of the things, gosh, I'm talking about my coaching a lot. I don't do it anymore, by the way, but I used to do it. But one of the things that really stuck with me was just hearing the amount of coaches talk about how they encourage leaders to read more fiction because fiction helps train your empathetic brain. Because if you read a lot of nonfiction, which I used to do, sure, you're reading things to grow, to learn, to get more new information, and that's great. But fiction is truly a place where you have to get something from the story. That person in the story is not you. So you have to relate to something else, to someone else and their story, and that is you working out your empathetic brain.
Yeah.
And so I love that.
I think that's fantastic.
Me and Kathy were talking on a podcast the other day about when you get triggered from reading fiction books, that is like a roadmap to where you can look at like what is it that's triggering you and where this is like, okay, now I know where to do some work.
Yeah.
Because like nonfiction books, they're not gonna trigger you guys. Like they're gonna probably be like triggering in a different way of like, oh yeah, I am self-sabotaging stuff. They're not gonna piss you off like some of these characters in these books do.
Because you're either going to relate that person to yourself. It's like a mirror. You're reading a mirror in some instances in that. So yeah,
this is part of the beauty and power of storytelling and art in general, is that whatever the author or creator or artist has for the intent of that piece of work is one piece of it. But we as individuals who consume that art, whether it be story or whatever medium, we are able to derive whatever it is that is relevant to us. And that is the power of storytelling. I might tell you a story about my whole life, and you can't relate to all of it because you are not me. But there are pieces there. We've had a huge conversation today about motherhood. There are pieces of it that we can pull, and it gets you to feel connected with each other that bit closer. And that is such an amazing power to storytelling in general. This is how I personally feel that this is how we bring the world together, because I work actually a lot in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion within my company. That's not my role. I just do a lot of work in it. And the number one thing that has consistently helped conversations is when people get to tell their stories. Because you hear whatever you're going to hear from the news, you're going to have whatever assumptions and feelings you have about what's happening in the world. But when you see your colleague, your friend saying, actually, this is probably, I'm going to talk about myself to make it a bit more real, but like, remember when the Me Too movement was happening? So um, that was a story that I told to a friend, and because I love him to bits, and he's just like, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it, and I'm just like, I have been like sexually assaulted as a woman, and it's been luckily relatively mild, but it happens a lot, even when I was underaged.
Yeah.
People will come up to me, and he's just like, what? And it's like, how do you can argue whatever statistics exist out there. How are you going to argue that this other person's lived experience didn't
Standing
actually
in front
happen?
of you, flesh and blood, not
Yeah,
a piece of statistic on a paper.
exactly.
And someone that you care about.
Exactly.
And, you know,
Yeah.
like hearing it from someone else, maybe it was their personal story, but hearing it from you, whom they love and adore and you have a relationship with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just a relationship,
And
friendship.
it just takes it away from people thinking, "Oh, that never happened," to, "Well, shit, now I know it's happened at least once." And if it can happen once, it's likely happened more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these are topics, and I love getting deep in topics like this because I don't feel like people do it enough. I don't feel like people have the conversations, and even if like we have this conversation, right? Or we start talking about something and I can say something that might be offensive, but then we have a conversation about, "Oh, I offended you. I didn't mean to. This was my intent." And then we can continue the conversation.
Mhm.
Like that is fucking communication at its finest.
Yeah. And going back to my values, connection is a big value to me. And and for me it comes down to, I care about you as a person enough that I'm not willing to let my pride get in the way and not own up to whatever it is I fucked up on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have
Or
been Go
and
ahead.
you don't even have to like if it's an opinion and that sort of thing, like to where you disagree on something, it's not necessarily a fuck up, but we feel like it is because we don't want to hurt the person because we care
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to connection. Like
Yeah.
I I care about like I don't want to actually offend people, not intentionally, unless you're really mean to me.
So that actually, that's a good question. So you storytelling is a huge part of your belief system and how you think the world connects. If someone disagrees with the story that you've worked on or doesn't like it or has criticism on that for you, how do you manage that? How do you work through that?
I just you didn't see it, of course, but I just shrugged.
I'll shrug for you.
I thought you were going to say I
Yeah.
flipped him
Yeah.
off. So,
No. I mean,
You need to put some hands on that little guy.
right.
you can't do anything about that, right? It's just like I can tell my story. And if you choose to not listen and not believe me for whatever reason, you just won't be part of my life. Simple as that. I'm not going to spend energy try to bring someone around to my point of view. That's just I'm it's not worth my time. I
So
can share my story. Go
what
ahead.
about in the realm of like your actual narration? Like you're doing a story
Ah,
narrating, yeah, and then you get the criticism from the story that you've poured your heart and soul into. You've replicated this character, and then the criticism comes on that of like whatever that looks like. Do you have
oh
that? Have
gosh.
you dealt with that yet?
Not really, but for me, it kind of comes down to, what did the author think? So let's say it's a produced audiobook, right? Let's say it's a produced audiobook. We were getting feedback, and someone says, I really hated this character. I don't think that's how she should have been. This is not how I'd have hit my head, etc. And that's completely valid because we always try to look to connect to these stories. For me, it comes down to what the author thought. If the author gets back to me with feedback saying, hey, no, this is not how I imagined this scene being, I will 100% respect that because it is ultimately their story that I'm trying to convey. I want to share whatever story that they want to share out in the world. And obviously, I can put a bit of myself into it, but if my interpretation is wrong, it's ultimately still their story. So I will respect that. If I get a review from someone about something that's already been produced therefore I assume that the author has signed off on it, then it's unfortunate, but I have to. It's unfortunate, and at the very least, I know I've stayed true to the intent of the author.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
I
going to
like
make
that.
everybody happy.
No, you're not.
Right.
You're not.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So going kind of back into your community, your passion for community and connection, coming into the narrator community, what was that like for you?
I feel absolutely fortunate that I got in when I did. I I feel that I saw the formation of it on TikTok and got to be along for the ride of it as it developed and thrived and flourished. It's amazing. You get these people that are just happy to learn more, happy to share, happy to collaborate. When I got started, there was again, I started with the spice. I got to meet a few people who really I connected with, like the good sir, and now you know him as Ethics, or he used to be Ethan Gray or Grumble back then. But but like I
We
got
love Ethan.
yeah, he's God, he's awesome. And I have a bit of a funny story. I think well, I don't know if it's funny story, but he was the first person to he's like, hey, do you want to collab? I was like, yeah, sure. I'm like new to the space. And he's like, all right, cool. I need you to moan for me for 10 seconds. And
Excuse me?
and climax at the end. And I'm like, okay, I haven't done this before. And so I gave him a few takes. Now that he's gone off and really thrived in his own way, and I'm so happy for him. And in
I love
hindsight, I'm
listening
just
to
like,
his stuff on Threads. He cracks me
it's
the
so
fuck up.
good. He's so good. And in
Good
hindsight, I'm just
boy.
like, oh, I'm so glad you're not a creep.
This could have gone so much worse.
I was so fucking trusting. Granted, I
Just
feel
for
like
everyone to know, you cannot slide into Hell's DMs and ask for her moans. She's
no.
not gonna do it.
You either gotta pay for it or you gotta be a content creator that I trust.
And what a
But-
first part, the
but-
person to get that. Ethan's
Pop your cherry in
Ethan's such an
best
amazing
way.
person.
He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Gosh. But I'd like to thank my my vibe check radar. It's been my tried and true buddy throughout all this. But yeah, it's I got to meet him and I got to connect with Allie, Ruthie, and Paige, and because they've got a few years under their belt, and I'm just like, hey, what's up? Tell me more. And they were just nothing but encouraging throughout my process, and everybody along the way just it's not very gatekeepy. There is I feel like if I'm sure it exists to some extent, but it's very mild. If the general gist I got from other narrators is, hey, if you really want to get in, welcome. Do your research and welcome. And that's something I absolutely try to abide by. Because I welcome anybody who wants to get into this. I'm happy to help. And you have to be your best advocate for yourself. You have to work hardest for yourself first before I help, kind of thing. I'm happy to help anyone so long as they're showing effort.
Right, yeah.
I think that it seems anyways, the New Orleans trip was so pivotal I believe in the newer, I'm just going to put newer generation of narrators. Success.
It was a first of its kind in the sense that for a lot of us that were on that trip, we sure connected to each other via social media, but we've never met each other. And it's like such an isolating role, career, whatever that might
Yeah.
be for you. Like it's such an, because you're in a booth by yourself.
Even when you're collaborating, often you're alone.
Exactly. And so it was such an amazing experience where you get to meet them. It's like, hey, because no matter how much we connect on social media, nothing beats face to face.
Agreed.
Right.
And that was what the New Orleans trip broke that wall for us because I was like, oh, I got to see Kathy in person, and you got to see me as more than just a logo and a little stuffy that I'm like including over here. But like you get to see me as more than that, but actually as a person and all of our colors beyond just a narrator. You got to see me as a mother, as a partner, as some really goofy person who can't stop giggling when listening to spicy shit, you know?
Yes.
And
I
so
love that.
it just adds so much more dimension beyond what is presented on social media. And it is, yeah, to your point, it was an amazing experience, and it was a pivotal moment for us to be able to continue to make these connections. And that's part of our success, right? It's like narrators recommend other narrators. And I feel so much closer to all the narrators that I met and authors that I met over there because I know them as a person now beyond just whatever brand that they're building.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what we try to do through our social medias too, right? To some extent is like, hey, I'm human. There's a connecting factor of like, this is me as a human. This is me being personal. And you're building a brand of like, I'm a human and I fucking love spicy shit. And that's me being authentic. And everyone else is like, oh, you mean it's okay for me to enjoy orgasms? What?
More than just orgasms. You could do more than that.
I want to bring that. I
All
want
the
to talk
way.
about a little bit how I feel like that the maybe not non-readers, but readers in general, that the stigma of women enjoying sex and enjoying pleasure and having pleasure is being shattered. Like that stigma is being shattered, and it's celebrated instead.
Yeah. What a perfect example of us taking power that was used against us, right? And that's why we see so much effort against it too, because it was a method of control, and we're fighting back against it because you're like, oh, fuck that! I love orgasming in real life, like.
It's like one of my favorite things to do.
These things are great.
Like, also, do you know that if you have a headache, that shit makes it go away? So,
but also, yeah, and it's just like it's so hush hush. It's so seen as a this is what you should do in private. This is something special, and I'm like, no, like there's I guess the way I think about it is I care about my health.
yeah,
And because
fill
I
your
care
cup.
about my health, there are plenty of research that shows how reaching your climax is actually very healthy for you.
Good for all of it.
It's a workout to get there. 2, it helps you sleep.
Yep.
3,
it helps your emotions.
It's a rush
it balances out your emotions and your hormones.
Absolutely.
If you're pissed, go have a session and come back and let me know how angry you are after. Let's see if we can continue this argument after that.
Exactly. It's like there's so many scientific benefit, and I am a woman of science. I will not hold it against me to do
we need
what
to collect
science
data.
says is best.
That's right. Research.
But exactly to your point, it's I think a lot of what the power of book talk and the book community in general is a lot of these women that are taking this power of sexuality for themselves, whether it be through their writing, whether it be through their content creation, whether it be through narration and the spicy audios that we make. It is us taking that power and getting this, at least for me, again, it was me deciding that I no longer want nor care that, or I never longer want to feel ashamed about enjoying this.
Yeah.
I
And
completely agree with that. And I love
I
that
want
as
to
a
enable it.
reader from the reader's point of perspective, because, I mean, even still, my generation and people seeing someone older reading or listening to spicy books is like,
Kathy gets shit from her
I do.
kids.
I get shit from my kids. No kidding. True.
They believe we just talk about sex on this podcast all
They
the
do.
time.
100%. True story. My daughter called me one time. She's like, Mom, guess what happened to me? And I was like, you remember the story? I'm like, what, babe?
Yeah.
And she's like, I had one of the most embarrassing things happen to me. She goes, I was called by someone, I don't know, somebody reached out to her from her job and was like, so I see your mom on TikTok talking about glass cocks.
That is
She was
amazing.
mortified. She's like, can you just like not? And I said, I was laughing. I couldn't even hardly talk. I
Oh
was
gosh.
laughing so.
You need to buy her one for her birthday.
Oh my God. She would, no, that would, no.
Like, I would not be like that. It's like, if my mom told me that, I'd be like, go you, Mom.
Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah. Oh
No, my
God,
son, on the
same.
other hand, okay, so so I have two girls and a boy, and he knows that I do this. He knows he's gotten in my car a couple times, and we start the car, and my Bluetooth takes over my phone, and it's like, and he shoved his cock and or whatever, and he's like, Mom, for fuck's sake. I'm like, sorry. It just starts on its own. I don't know what to tell
But
you.
also, can you give me the name of that book?
But he told me this is not too long ago. He told me, he said, if it makes you happy, specifically like doing the podcast and doing the audiobook production, he said, if it makes you happy and you can pay your bills and it gives you joy, then why not? Then do it. Like, who cares what anybody else thinks? And it was just so sweet that my son was,
Oh, we love you, Josh.
so
That is
sweet.
amazing.
And my girls are
He's a
supportive
good
too,
boy.
but from a distance, they're like,
Yeah.
Well, they also know, like, they understand the judgment that is going to potentially be out there for you. So I bet more
yes,
than anything, they're coming from a place of worry
I'm
about you,
sure.
which is still beautiful.
Yeah, it is. But
That is beautiful.
at this point in my
That's
life, I
so
could give
sweet.
zero fucks what anybody thinks.
Yeah, samesies. No, I love that, hell, because there is there is like, okay, so everyone can joke about guys watching porn, and that's like, oh yeah, just let's go have some porn sessions, whatever. That's awesome. Whenever like girls mention, oh yeah, I watch porn too, it's like, they like freak the fuck out. But then
Yeah.
we read these books and they're not like
That's
porn.
not porn.
Like, I mean, yes, they
There
are like
some.
porn, but they're not. And I like those books too. But anyways, it is so much more than that. We can experience so many different emotions, so many different things, so many different, hey, this got me in a mood. Now I get to go have a moment with my husband and that builds our relationship. Like, there's so much good that can come out of it. And there's also a place where we don't have to shame the guys for watching porn if they're doing it healthily, if they're doing it with a partner who consents,
Yeah.
if there's no reason to shame that. There's
Yeah.
no reason to shame the girls who are reading their smutty books and who are doing it to where it's benefiting their lives in a healthy manner. Fucking fuck off, all of you.
The way I think about it is, does it impact me? Does some guy watching a shit ton of porn impact me? Not really. It doesn't have any bearing in my life and what I choose to do, and vice versa. Because I do have another account now that makes very explicit audios. But me doing that, for people who don't listen to me, it has absolutely no bearings in their lives. It means it's so inconsequential. So why do I care? Like, if I'm not affecting someone else's life negatively, why do I care? I don't have to care. Like, why do I have to put energy into caring about and controlling what someone else does?
And their opinions are none of your business. Like, that's something I say,
She
like,
does.
other people's opinions of
It's a
me,
great saying too. She says it
that's
all the
none
time.
of my fucking business. Like,
Yeah,
what they think, what they believe, that's their business.
yeah,
I can't control that. The effort to control other people is exhausting and it's going to drain you.
yep,
Letting go of control is the most controlling thing you can do.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I have another quick question for you. And I know we have to wrap up here in a minute, but so
Do
Do
we
we
I
have
know we're gonna have to have her back.
High five,
And I'm
Hal.
like,
Yeah, that was
sorry.
awesome.
We'll have you back because I do believe there's so much still to explore.
Gosh,
But
I can keep talking if you want me to.
I would love that, except
We have
we
another
do.
podcast here.
No. I'm just. I meant for next time.
Oh, we will.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we
Yes.
will. Yeah. So I know that Quinn is that a lot of narrators are starting to go onto Quinn.
Mm,
Is that something that you have considered? Would you do it?
yes. So, so this is getting
Yes.
me talking about
Yes.
my other account, my other pseudonym. Her name is Swara or Swara.
Oh, hang on, say it again. No,
Swara.
I just want you to say it again. Yeah. Okay, say it again.
Swara.
And it's spelled Suara.
Yes.
Okay.
So my other socials is suara.audios. But so I love the name Swara. In Indonesian, it means
Yep, me
sound,
too.
What does it mean?
and it means sound. It just
Oh,
means sound.
okay.
Like it's like, oh, that sounds like a bird chirping, for example. And so but I love the way it sounds. Anyways, that account,
Especially when you say it with that low register like that. Just saying.
Shall I keep talking in this lower register?
Well, for
I'm
fuck's
gonna have to
sake,
unmute
Hal.
and go over here for a minute, be sure.
But that other account is dedicated to more of my spicy stuff. I'm getting back into it. So I started with spicy. I stopped because I just didn't have the energy and the creative juices to keep creating my own spicy content. But now I have a connection of people who are willing to share their work, share their writing, and for me to voice it. And it's called Beyond the Veil. There's like this Discord group, a group of us has started, and it's been amazing. One day I do want to, get into something like Quinn. There's other platforms out there, like, oh gosh, Undercover Audios and Femtessy. There's a Dipsy.
Fem to see.
There's so many things out there, and yes, I would like to get into them. And Magic Wave is one of them as well. I do want to get into it, because it is still something that I find absolute joy in. I do have to warn you, the things that are on, I have a Magic Wave account and I have a Patreon account. The things in there are filthy. I want to be
Raunchy, dirty.
I want to be very clear about that. I am also having fun and experimenting in immersive audios.
Everyone's going to their computers right now searching that shit.
Please do, but just so you're forewarned, you know what you're getting yourself into. The things in like my Swara's social media account is like maybe 1 to 2 chili peppers. Magic Wave 3 to 5. Patreon 4 to 5. So
Touche.
it's probably how I would like describe it. It's all spice. It's all spice. And I love doing it. It's just so much fun. It's me being comfortable in my own like, sexuality. It's me exercising that and playing around with it and getting to celebrate it with other people who are also doing it. It's just it's just a ton of fun. So one day
I
I
love
hope
that.
so.
Yes.
I sincerely hope so.
That's awesome.
I do. I love that. I have the personality of a 14-year-old boy, and I hate saying that because like that but everyone knows immediately their mind goes to like just this, very like that's what she said kind of that is me 100%, and I own it. So I
Mhm.
love when people join me in the circle of like, yeah, we're all just gonna own it. Like sexuality is part of being human if you allow it, and
Yeah.
if you don't, you are blocking a huge part of humanity off from yourself.
Yeah. And it's just like knowing where you are, acknowledging it, and yeah. If you don't want to be into it, that's cool too.
Well, and
That's
you
cool
can be
too.
into it, and it's okay to do that privately. Like, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
out in the open. Like, you can enjoy that and own your own sexuality in the privacy of
Yeah.
your own space. You don't have to be, you don't have to tell anybody. Just
Absolutely.
so you
Absolutely.
know who you are.
Doing
Yeah.
this gave me power. It gives me a kind of power in myself that I didn't realize I had before. And so I will continue doing it because I fucking love it. It's so much fun. I get
And
to
you're
work on
so fucking good at it.
Thank you.
You are.
Like you will say things, and I know you're not reading from a script. I know you're just but like even when you said doing it gives me power, I just heard a main character like dropping her fucking hardcore line. Just the way that you said that right there, I was like, I'd read that book.
Yeah. Jot these down, authors. Oh gosh. Oh. Nah, I feel like I live in my head a lot, so some of the things that comes out of my mouth, some of them are curated, most of it is rambling.
Oh no, it's been sitting there curating. It's just now it's tumbling out.
Yeah. But I love talking about these things. As you can tell, I can get passionate about it too.
That's
So
awesome.
before we run out of time, you've got some books that you're working on and some projects that
Yes.
you're working on. Is there anything that you would like to shout out and talk to people about for them to get excited and go check out?
Absolutely. So, Corrupted Tides and Tainted Seas are my first two audiobooks by S.M. Campbell. Both are out. Those are dark fantasies. They have a bit of spice in them, but they are dark fantasy first. So if you like a morally gray FMC, a quirky, fun, kind of maverick MMC, and multiple other amazingly deep characters, go check out this book. I also did a historical romance with Will Rose, aka Zach, for Andrea Janelle that's already out. But coming up, I have Defiled Oceans, which is the third book in S.M. Campbell series. Scarlet by Kaylee Hilton, which is a dark romance, but no spice. No spice. Perceptions is also out, or not out, in the works by David Parker Ross. Redemption by Madison Jacobs is another dark romance I will be working on this year. There are some hush hush ones, but some other ongoing stuff. Punch and Roll for Initiative. You probably remember hearing about that.
Yep.
If you love listening to narrators nerding out, Punch and Roll for Initiative is your D&D podcast.
And getting
Have you
raunchy.
done D&D
Let's
before that?
be
Oh,
very.
yes.
Is it gets raunchy in there? Wait, hang on.
What did you say,
I
Kathy?
said, and getting raunchy.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, that just gives me a whole other reason to start listening.
it it's there's definitely, it is 18 plus. I want to preface that it's going to be for 18 plus. Is We're very much starting off, so you're not missing out on too much yet as the story develops and what these characters decide to do. There's nothing super explicit out there yet, but it's it's adults having fun playing D&D.
Yep.
But Punch and Roll for Initiative, you won't see me on there, but I have a hand in it as their I a self-proclaimed general manager. I just tell people what to do all the time.
I love it. That's awesome. Dang it.
And
Okay, so I have a whole list of questions to ask you. I have questions here, and we do not have enough time. So
I'm
you
so
need to
sorry.
message us so we can schedule another episode with you because this
Let's
is
do it.
fantastic.
Yes,
Let's do it.
we have to.
The one thing I forgot to say is Center Chronicles is also another audio drama that I'm a part of.
Ooh.
That list, girl.
It's
That is
available
that is
on YouTube.
amazing.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Audio
So
drama.
cool.
Is that the immersive, like,
No. So the Center Chronicles is a story based off another Our another plays D&D stories, but they're making it into a little audio drama full of like just voice actors to voice their various characters. So you just kind of and get to be part of a story. That one is, I think there's no spice in it to my knowledge, because it is on YouTube. But yeah, my immersive spicy stuff is, you're gonna best find that either on Magic Wave or definitely Patreon.
That is so. I am so proud. I don't like. I've met you in such a short amount of time, but I'm so fucking proud of you, dude.
Thank you so much, Randy. I so appreciate that. And I couldn't have done it without amazing people like you. One of the things that you do for the HVO 24 hours, the podcast, just the community that you are building and have built, and the connections that you share with others. The work that you both are doing is so, it's priceless. I have nothing but gratitude for everything that you're doing for this community.
Thank you.
It's gonna keep going. It's gonna be something amazing. That's for sure. There's no stop anytime soon.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right. Before we end this, do you have another question,
No,
Kathy?
I was going to have her tell where everybody could find her, including your Patreon.
So I think if you want to just go search for easy links, everything is available on Linktree, with TikTok sunsetting very soon. I'll still be available on Insta, Threads. What was it?
Tonight. They're sunsetting.
Oh yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
No,
exactly.
They're going off tomorrow.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I'm still gonna be very active on Instagram. I'm chatty on Threads as both Hell and Suara.audios. I am going to probably switch over to Twitch for my live streaming for narration. Yeah. So I do have a Twitch account. They're all under Voice of Hell, one word, no caps. And that's probably the best way to reach me. Again, for Suara, I'm on Magic Wave and Patreon. The links are available on the Instagram account if you want to follow me there. But that's again for the spicy spice, for the real spicy stuff.
Amazing. You're amazing, Hell. I just love you as a person and as a narrator, just in general. Like, you have only enhanced my life by meeting you.
I feel so sincerely the same about you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
God, this was
all right. I don't want to. This is sad. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of L3. We will see you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us on this episode of Lemon's Listening Library. Remember, every story has a journey, and every journey deserves to be heard. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep listening.